The Chicago Bears are not supposed to be the team making everyone in the division nervous, but that is exactly what is happening right now. They keep stacking wins, they sit on top of the NFC North, and rival fans are looking at the standings like something has glitched. Green Bay looks shaky, Minnesota is searching for answers, Detroit is not rolling like last season, and somehow the Bears are the ones setting the pace. That alone grabs every fan in the division by the collar. This is not a fluke built on one lucky afternoon. Chicago has put together a long stretch of victories against different styles of opponents, in different stadiums, and in different types of games. Sometimes it is tense, low-scoring football where every field goal feels massive. Other times it is about long drives, turnovers, and late heroics. When a team keeps finding new ways to close games, people around the league stop talking about luck and start talking about identity. What makes it so uncomfortable for the rest of the NFC North is how early this all arrived. On paper, this was supposed to be a year of learning, not a year of leading the race. Instead, the Bears are forcing everyone else to chase them, while they quietly act like this is normal. That mix of surprise and calm is why this story feels so dangerous. When a young team plays with this much confidence, the ceiling for the rest of the season suddenly looks a lot higher than anyone wanted to admit. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Bears and all the NFL content. Can we get 100 likes on this video? Every time the Chicago Bears play, the conversation around Caleb Williams swings like a door in the wind. 1 week after a tough loss, talk shows question his mind, his vision, his timing. Then he pulls out a tense finish against a strong opponent, and the same people rush back to call him the face of the franchise. That back and forth might make sense on social media, but it completely misses what is actually happening on the field. His level is not bouncing as wildly as the takes. Against Minnesota, you saw the perfect example of that. The box score was not pretty, and both he and J.J. McCarthy fought through drops and tight coverage. Yet, in the biggest moments, Caleb still found throws that most young quarterbacks do not even attempt, hitting and breaking routes into tight windows and standing tall when the rush closed in. More important than any single highlight, he protected the ball in a loud divisional stadium where one mistake could have flipped the result. That calm decision-making is exactly what this team needs from its quarterback. The biggest jump is in what happens after the first man gets a hand on him. Earlier in his career, those escape plays often ended in another sack or a scramble that lost yards. Now you see him slipping out of trouble, resetting his base, and either giving his receivers a second chance or living to play the next snap with a smart throwaway. When a quarterback combines creativity with better discipline, coaches start to trust him with more control of the game. That is why inside the building there is no panic, no flip-flopping, only a growing belief that they have their long-term answer at the most important position. This version of the Chicago defense does not play for quiet 3-and-outs. It plays for sudden swings. They sit near the top of the league in takeaways, interceptions, and turnover margin, which is why they keep winning even when the offense stalls. You feel it in games like the win over Minnesota, where long stretches of average play suddenly flip with one snap and the whole stadium tilts. When your group is built to snatch the ball in the air and punch it free on contact, every drive becomes a chance to flip the score without even asking the offense to move the chains. That constant threat is what makes this team so uncomfortable to play against. Up front, it starts with power and disruption that crushes the pocket from inside and out. Grady Jarrett walks guards back into the quarterback and closes throwing lanes before routes even develop. Montez Sweat wrecks play action when offenses leave a tight end on him, forcing rush dump-offs that get blown up by downhill safeties. Those games and stunts along the line are not about pretty rush plan drawings. They're about hitting the point of attack so hard that quarterbacks feel trapped and fire the ball before they are ready. When your front four can win like that, you do not have to send reckless pressure to create bad decisions. Behind that rush is a secondary that actually punishes those mistakes instead of just letting passes hit the turf. Kevin Byard reads eyes from the deep middle and jumps in, breaking throws that young passers love, while Nan Wright has already shown he can win jump balls against big names like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Jaquan Brisker brings physicality in the box, Jalen Johnson erases one side when healthy, and CJ Gardner-Johnson plus Kyler Gordon give flexibility in the slot. This is not a unit leaning on one star doing everything. It is a room full of defenders who all expect to touch the football. Put that together with a front that consistently squeezes the pocket, and you get a defense that does not just survive games, it rips them away. Ben Johnson is not calling an offense that looks the same every Sunday. Against Minnesota, he rolled out 8 different personnel groupings and barely leaned on the classic 3 wide receiver look that most teams live in. The Bears spent most of the night with the quarterback under center and with receivers tightened into condensed sets instead of spread out wide. That kind of structure hides intentions before the snap, creates traffic for defenders, and forces a defense like Brian Flores' unit to think instead of just chasing. When you watch this group, it is clear they are trying to attack the opponent in front of them rather than forcing one fixed identity every week. The run game shows how serious they are about that approach. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai are getting volume on the ground even when the yards per carry are not explosive, because the staff knows long drives and time of possession are as important as highlights for this roster. Heavy under-center usage and tight formations help the line fire off the ball, build play-action looks that actually scare linebackers, and keep the pass rush honest. Chicago is not trying to be a track-meet offense. They are trying to play a controlled brand of football where their backs and tight ends carry a real share of the work and the clock becomes a weapon. In the passing game, Johnson has quietly started to reshape the pecking order. Luther Burden is taking work from Olamide Zaccheaus because he can change a drive in one snap. Colston Loveland has become the safety blanket who converts long third downs with strong hands and yards after the catch. DJ Moore still commands attention from every secondary, while Cole Kmet chips in as a reliable underneath target. But even right now, the mix of veterans and younger playmakers gives Caleb Williams multiple answers versus pressure. This is why the offense can function even on nights when the box score looks average. The structure itself is built to give them a path through almost any defensive plan. Chicago keeps dragging games into the kind of fourth quarter that breaks most teams. Leads shrink, crowds flip, momentum swings, and suddenly every snap feels like the season is on the line. Instead of folding, this group has learned to live in that storm, trading style points for sheer survival. Drives stall in the red zone, field goals stack where touchdowns should be, and yet they refuse to panic. The offense squeezes just enough out of late possessions. The defense finds one more critical stop, and special teams usually give them one key moment to tilt the field. It is messy, but it keeps ending in wins. That experience matters. A locker room that repeatedly escapes tight finishes starts to believe it can handle anything. Opponents know that too. When the score is tight in the final minutes now, it is Chicago that looks comfortable and everyone else that feels the pressure. Chicago's third phase never feels boring. One series they allow a long return that breathes life into an opponent, and the next moment, Devin Duvernay rips off a huge kick run back that hands the offense a short field with the game on the line. That kind of swing explains why every kickoff and punt feels like a turning point. Cairo Santos sits right in the middle of that tension. He has drilled bombs from distance and nailed walk-off kicks, but recent misses keep fans holding their breath every time he lines up. The loss of Jake Moody to Washington also removed the obvious in-house challenger. Punter Torrey Taylor has flashed big leg talent but still battles consistency. In tight games against playoff-level opponents, that hidden yardage and reliability on special teams will decide whether this surge keeps going. The next stretch will tell everyone if this surge is built to last or if it is just a hot run. Chicago now walks into weeks filled with physical fronts, smart coordinators and coaches who have plenty of film on what Ben Johnson and this defense want to do. There is no place to hide when every opponent is fighting for playoff position. Turnover waves and late-game magic are thrilling, but living on them is dangerous. Offenses like the Steelers, Eagles, Lions, Packers, and 49ers punish short fields if special teams crack. Defenses from those groups also close small windows faster, so empty red zone trips become even more costly. Around the conference, the Rams, Eagles, and 49ers all look beatable, which opens a real lane if Chicago can tighten details. Cleaning up clock management, red zone play, and coverage fits would turn this from a fun story into a legitimate contender. On paper, this was supposed to be a patient rebuild year, not a season where Chicago sits above the division and makes veteran teams nervous. New staff, young quarterback, reshaped roster, and a schedule packed with proven coaches usually means growing pains, not scoreboard control. Every projection had them a step behind the contenders in their own conference. Reality does not match that script. This locker room handles tight games with calm, adjusts each week to different plans, and rarely looks rattled when something goes wrong. Leaders on both sides have bought into a clear standard, and the younger core has picked it up faster than anyone expected. That is how a plan that should still be in the learning stage already looks dangerous. At some point, you stop saying it is early and admit what the record and the tape are screaming. Chicago is ahead of schedule and absolutely belongs in the conversation.